And by adopting AI-powered solutions and reducing the energy footprint, telcos contribute to a more sustainable future. This session will give us the state of play for the adoption of AI for power savings for telcos and how it unlocks key benefits, also delivering positive impacts on the environment and reducing operational costs, including overall network efficiency. Joining us are Andrey Kuzin. He's Chief Technology Officer at Cellcard. And next to him is Vivek Chadha. He's Senior Vice President and Global Head, Telco Cloud, that at Rakuten Symphony. And gentlemen, welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. I know you just flew in.
Yeah, just came a few hours ago.
Good to have you. We're winding down day one here at FutureNet Asia. I know everyone's a bit dragging, but we have another day tomorrow, so you can get some sleep and then come fresh tomorrow. Andrey, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you. A lot of emphasis over the last number of years, as you know, on sustainability and really these energy savings, and telcos are really behind that push. Why is that? And could you sort of unpack that for the audience here?
Yeah, so one of the reasons, I can commend it for Cambodia, right? So one of the things is where the investment is coming from. For example, CamGSM, which is Cellcard, is leveraging sustainable bonds, for instance. So we have a financing that requires to invest into the green energy kind of technologies, or technologies that allow us to save, to spend less energy in general. So another thing is that just simply because we are responsible, so out of responsibility, we also think on how we can optimize, how can we reduce the carbon footprint, and on top of this, it will give us the ability to advertise ourselves as more kind of eco-friendly telecom, which seems to resonate better with the younger population, because this something that this younger population actually looking for. So this is a few things.
Vivek, I mentioned in the aforementioned introduction about AI and voting towards these energy cost savings. Can you give us an example of how there's a direct correlation between AI right now as we know it and these energy savings?
Absolutely. So I think, at least in Rakuten, we've already have relatively advanced development, which is being tested in production. For example, our cloud-native platform has machine learning models, including collaboration with some partners where we can intelligently switch the power state of the servers, of the compute, depending on the workload conditions. If you don't need to run your data centers or the servers very hot, for example, when there's very low traffic, not only are you switching between the compute states, you're saving energy, but it's also good for the state of the hardware because you can prolong and extend that. So to your point, it's got two benefits. It helps contribute towards sustainability by reducing energy consumption, which also is a good news for the bill. But also the hardware itself has improved lifespan because you're not running as hot and as densely all the time. So that's one example which is actually already under play, and hopefully we'll be able to take it to a lot of other customers in the coming quarters.
Andrey, if you could look into the looking glass, and somewhat of a futurist question here, how do you see AI playing maybe even a bigger role in sustainability over the next foreseeable future anyway?
Yeah, I think, AI is really popular buzzwords these days. Some of the statistical or, let's say, algorithmical kind of technologies, which is machine learning, for instance, they are helping us to identify, define the best places where we can optimize, for instance, to predict traffic. If we can predict traffic in the radio networks, we can know and forecast where we can switch off some of the radio modules to save on energy, for instance, so we don't run empty network, basically. So the same thing, I think, applicable for server farms, right? I just said it's exactly the one. So it's basically ability to predict and forecast and prepare better utilization of resources. And better utilization means you run less than you actually need.
Vivek, if you were sitting here at FutureNet Asia 2025, talking about AI and these energy savings, what do you think the topic should be about?
Ideal state, it would be great if we could have a conversation to compare the actual efficacy of these savings as realized in real-world examples. So it'd be great if a few of the operators, if not a lot of the operators, came out and said, we've done ABC use cases, some of the examples Andrew just gave, and we've realized 6%, 8%, 10% savings on our energy bill for that scope of work. This is significant. Even if you can reach like close to 2 digits, it might seem small as a percentage number, but especially for large telcos across big geographic distributions, definitely in Europe, but probably also true for APAC, the energy bills are not trivial. So 5% reduction might look small at the surface level, but actually adds up to a lot of dollars and cents. So I think that personally would be not just a good validation that real world benefits are emerging, but why it's good for the business as well as for the environment.
Andrey, I want to ask you one more question. Outside of maybe the business case for a sustainable future for these telcos, do you think the corporate responsibility for not only telcos, but just the ecosystem in general for these power savings, for this sustainable future, is at a rate that you're comfortable with at Cellcard? Do you think industry-wide that corporate responsibility exists or not?
I think it is. I'm not that old, cannot judge a long back into history, but in recent history, I think it was less pronounced maybe 20 years ago.
Sure.
Now it's more often people take decisions from this perspective as well, business decisions. It's basically kind of resonates through all the society and into business. And yeah, that's a kind of maturity of the business approach as well. So it's the one thing that when you really mature, you become more responsible.
Sure.
Right? So this is one of the things.
Interesting point. So Vivek, again, is it the business case that's driving the sustainability by these telcos, or is it the corporate responsibility, or is it both? I mean, in fairness.
I think it's both. One of the points Andrew raised right in the beginning was also the focus of the investment community who is putting money into these businesses, not just telco, but other businesses. There's a moral drive there as well to try and use sustainable sources of fuel, etc., because ultimately it all has to come together to try and do what's the right thing for the planet for the long term. But the business case, like I've mentioned earlier, is non-trivial. Another example which probably resonates home and is a lot more material on a day-to-day basis is using AI to do predictive analytics for outages in the network. So you can do proactive planning of workforce and truck rolls. Truck rolls are also significant cost and consumption of fuel and wear and tear, etc. So if you could reduce truck rolls in an entire country by 5% across all the operators put together, that's a significant amount of fuel saving and wear and tear. So I think it's all the three dimensions, not just the two you mentioned. One is the emphasis from the investment community into what they would like to see their businesses doing. The businesses themselves having a moral quotient which they'd like to abide by. And obviously it is good for the bottom line as well.
I almost feel like, some years ago we talked about security as an afterthought, and now it's by design, right? It's built in. And I always feel like we're kind of going around the same cycle with sustainability, where it was almost an afterthought some years back, not too far back, and now it's by design, right? It's built in, like it's not an afterthought, it's a forethought. So I think that's where we are, maybe from a thought leadership point of view. So it's always good to have perspective on this. It's an important topic. Good perspective from Rakuten Symphony, and good to meet you, by the way, Andrey from Cellcard. I'm glad you made it. I know you just came from the airport. So we'll talk about this sometime soon, I'm sure. And thanks for your time.
Thank you.